What is it that drives humanity? What is it that consumes the minds of men and women, shaping their desires, controlling their ambitions, and directing the course of their lives? From the highest offices of power to the most ordinary streets, people chase after the same things: sex, power, riches, and materialism. The world tells us that these are the keys to happiness, the ultimate measures of success. We are told that if we can have more, experience more, control more, and indulge more, we will finally be satisfied. But is that really true? Look around at the world today. People are wealthier than ever, yet more anxious and restless than before. They have access to endless pleasure, yet feel emptier than ever. They achieve power, yet live in fear of losing it. No matter how much they gain, it is never enough. The hunger for more only grows stronger, leading to frustration, brokenness, and disappointment. Have we been deceived? Have we placed our trust in things that cannot truly satisfy? Tonight, I want to challenge the way we think about these things. I want to take a closer look at what the world calls success and ask a deeper question. Does it really lead to the life we all desire? The illusion of fulfillment is one of the greatest deceptions that humanity faces. The world promises that sex, power, and wealth will bring happiness, that if a person can just attain more, they will finally feel satisfied. It is the great pursuit of mankind, the desire to fill an inner void with something tangible, something that can be seen, touched, and controlled. But no matter how much people attain, they always find themselves wanting more. The hunger never truly goes away, because what they seek cannot be satisfied by the things of this world. Consider the way people chase after pleasure. It starts with small desires, simple things: comfort, enjoyment, entertainment. But as soon as one pleasure is obtained, the thrill of it fades and something greater is needed. The world glorifies sex as the ultimate form of fulfillment. It is marketed in movies, music, and advertisements as the key to happiness. People are told that if they can have the perfect partner, the most passionate romance, the most uninhibited experience, they will finally feel complete. Yet, despite this message being preached everywhere, society is filled with broken relationships, loneliness, and dissatisfaction. If sex alone could fulfill a person, why do so many people feel empty after chasing it? Why does the pursuit of pleasure often lead to regret, addiction, and deeper longing instead of satisfaction? Power is no different. From the beginning of time, people have sought control over others, believing that influence will make them significant. They fight to be in charge, to have authority, to be recognized and admired. But history is full of powerful men and women who reached the highest levels of society only to find themselves more isolated, more paranoid, and more discontented than ever before. Rulers who conquered entire nations still wanted more. Leaders who built empires feared losing them. People who spent their whole lives climbing the ladder of success often found that once they reached the top, there was nothing there to satisfy them. Power is deceptive because it makes a person believe they are in control, when in reality they are often controlled by the very thing they sought. Then there is the pursuit of riches. Money is perhaps the most common illusion of fulfillment. People believe that if they just had a little more, they would be happy. A man who earns $50,000 a year believes he would be satisfied with $100,000. The one with $100,000 dreams of $1 million. The millionaire is not content until he reaches $10 million. And the cycle continues. No matter how much wealth a person accumulates, they always crave more. This is because material possessions were never meant to satisfy the deepest needs of the human soul. People spend their lives collecting things, believing that the next purchase will finally bring happiness. They buy the bigger house, the luxury car, the expensive clothes, and for a brief moment they feel excitement, a sense of achievement, but soon the feeling fades. The new car becomes just another car. The big house starts to feel normal. The clothes go out of style, so they chase after more. Society calls this success, but it is nothing more than an endless race where the finish line keeps moving. Celebrities and billionaires, those who have everything that most people dream of, often speak about their inner emptiness. Some of the most famous, wealthiest people in the world have admitted that after achieving everything they wanted, they still felt lost, Many turn to drugs, alcohol, or reckless behavior, desperately trying to find something real in a life that has given them everything they thought they needed. Others fall into depression, realizing too late that the things they spent their whole lives pursuing could not give them peace. This illusion of fulfillment is what drives much of the world into chaos. People lie, steal, betray, and even kill in pursuit of things that will never truly satisfy them. They destroy their families, compromise their values, and sacrifice their peace, believing that just a little more will finally be enough. But it never is. The tragedy of this illusion is that it blinds people from seeing what truly matters. Instead of seeking lasting joy, they chase after temporary thrills. Instead of finding meaning in love, truth, and purpose, they believe that possessions, status, and indulgence will give them what they are looking for. But deep down, no matter how much they achieve, they still feel the weight of something missing. The soul was never meant to be satisfied by the fleeting pleasures of the world. And until a person realizes this, they will always be searching, always chasing, but never finding what they truly need. Power has always been one of the greatest temptations known to mankind. From the beginning of history, individuals, nations, and empires have risen and fallen in pursuit of it. It is a force that can be used for good, yet more often than not it leads to corruption, destruction, and downfall. The desire for control, influence, and dominance over others has shaped civilizations, led to wars, and fueled the ambitions of rulers, politicians, and leaders across generations. But despite its allure, power is dangerous because it deceives those who possess it, making them believe they are invincible when, in reality, they are more vulnerable than ever. The corruption of power does not happen overnight. It begins subtly, with small compromises and seemingly harmless decisions. A person may start out with noble intentions, seeking authority to make a difference, to improve lives, or to bring justice. But as they gain influence, the taste of control becomes intoxicating. What once was a tool for serving others turns into a weapon for self-interest. They begin to crave more authority, more recognition, more submission from those around them. Slowly their priorities shift and they start justifying actions they once condemned. The lines between right and wrong become blurred, and what once seemed unacceptable now appears necessary for maintaining their position. History is filled with examples of men and women who were changed by power. Some of the most ruthless dictators of the past started their journeys with the promise of liberation, equality, or justice. They convinced the people that they were the answer to their struggles, only to turn into the very oppressors they once fought against. Their hunger for dominance grew with every victory, and soon they ruled with fear instead of fairness. Power, when left unchecked, leads to arrogance, and arrogance leads to downfall. The same leaders who once seemed untouchable eventually faced rebellion, assassination, or exile because they had become consumed by their own authority. Even outside of politics and leadership, the corruption of power can be seen in everyday life. It happens in businesses where executives exploit their employees for financial gain. It happens in relationships where one person manipulates and controls the other to maintain superiority. It happens in institutions where those in charge silence dissenting voices to keep their authority unchallenged. Power is seductive because it feeds the ego, making a person believe they are above accountability. They begin to think that the rules do not apply to them, that they are smarter, stronger, and more deserving than those around them. This is why so many powerful individuals eventually fall, not because of external enemies, but because of their own pride and unchecked. Another deception of power is the false sense of security it provides. A ruler may command armies, a CEO may control vast amounts of wealth, and an influential figure may have millions of followers, but none of these things can protect them from the realities of life. Power cannot prevent betrayal, sickness, or the passage of time. It cannot buy peace, genuine love, or true respect. Those who rise to great heights often find themselves isolated. surrounded not by true friends, but by those who fear or flatter them. They become prisoners of their own status, constantly looking over their shoulders, suspicious of those who might want to take their place. The very thing they work so hard to obtain becomes a burden they can never put down. Even in the face of this reality, many still chase power relentlessly. They see it as the ultimate achievement, the key to significance, the answer to their insecurities. But they fail to recognize that power, when misused, is never satisfying. No matter how much authority a person gains, they will always crave more. No matter how many people they control, they will never feel completely secure. And the more they cling to power, the more desperate they become to hold on to it, often at the cost of their integrity, relationships, and even their own humanity. This is why power, when not guided by wisdom and humility, becomes destructive. It creates leaders who rule by fear instead of love, individuals who prioritize their own interests over justice, and societies that value dominance over compassion. The pursuit of power without purpose leads only to emptiness and eventually destruction. Those who seek it must understand that true strength is not found in control, but in character. Not in dominance, but in the ability to serve others with integrity. Materialism is one of the greatest illusions that mankind has ever embraced. The belief that possessions can bring happiness, that wealth can provide security, and that success is measured by the abundance of material goods is a deception that has led millions into an endless cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. Everywhere we look, we see a world that glorifies having more money, more luxury, more status symbols. People are constantly chasing after the next big thing, convinced that if they can just acquire one more possession, they will finally be content. But the truth is, materialism never satisfies. It only fuels a deeper hunger for things that can never bring lasting joy. From childhood, society conditions people to equate their worth with what they own. Advertisements bombard them with messages that suggest happiness is found in designer clothing, the latest technology, or luxury cars. People grow up believing that their value is determined by the brand of their shoes, the size of their house, or the balance in their bank account. They look at others who seem to have more and convince themselves that they are falling behind, that they need to work harder, buy more, and consume endlessly to prove their success. But no matter how much they obtain, they always feel the pressure to acquire more. The thrill of a new purchase is temporary, quickly fading as the desire for the next item takes over. The pursuit of wealth and possessions often comes at a great cost. People sacrifice their time, their health, and even their relationships in the relentless drive for material success. They work long hours, neglect their families, and push themselves to exhaustion, believing that financial achievement will bring them fulfillment. But in the end, many of them realize that they have spent their lives chasing after things that have no real value. They look back and see that they missed moments with their loved ones, that they neglected the things that truly mattered in exchange for material goods that eventually lost their appeal. The irony of materialism is that while people believe they own their possessions often end up owning them. There is also the deception that wealth brings security. People believe that if they accumulate enough money, they will be protected from life's uncertainties. They think that financial stability will shield them from hardship, loss, or suffering. But no amount of money can prevent the challenges of life. A person can have millions in the bank and still experience heartbreak, illness, or the unexpected loss of everything they built. The stock market crashes, economies collapse, businesses fail, and fortunes disappear overnight. Those who put their trust in material wealth often find themselves devastated when it fails them. Money may provide comfort, but it cannot provide peace. It may buy luxury, but it cannot buy contentment. It may offer power, but it cannot offer meaning. Materialism also creates a false sense of competition among people. Instead of focusing on their own growth and purpose, individuals compare themselves to others based on what they own. Social media has amplified this issue, with people constantly showcasing their wealth, their travels, and their extravagant lifestyles, making others feel inadequate in comparison. This constant comparison leads to envy, resentment, and an unhealthy obsession with acquiring more. Instead of feeling grateful for what they have, people become fixated on what they lack. Instead of appreciating the simple joys of life, they spend their days striving for things that bring only temporary pleasure. Even those who reach the pinnacle of material success often find themselves feeling empty. Many of the world's richest individuals have spoken openly about their struggles with depression, addiction, and loneliness. They achieved everything the world told them would bring happiness, yet they still feel unfulfilled. Some of them turn to substance abuse, reckless behavior, or self-destruction because they cannot escape the feeling that something is missing. Others continue chasing more wealth, believing that if they just earn a little more, they will finally find what they are looking for. But the reality is that materialism is a never-ending cycle, a pursuit with no finish line, a hunger that can never be fully satisfied. The greatest tragedy of materialism is that it blinds people to the things that truly matter. Instead of investing in relationships, they invest in possessions. Instead of seeking wisdom, they seek wealth. Instead of finding purpose, they chase profit. They spend their lives accumulating things that will one day decay, rust, and be forgotten, all while neglecting the deeper needs of their soul. It is a race that leads nowhere, an illusion that promises fulfillment, but delivers only emptiness. The truth is, no amount of material wealth can ever satisfy the longing of the human heart, because it was never meant to. Riches have always been seen as the ultimate measure of success. The world teaches that wealth is the key to happiness, security, and influence, that those who have money live better, easier, and more meaningful lives. People devote their entire existence to the pursuit of riches, believing that once they reach a certain level of financial prosperity, they will finally experience true fulfillment. But the reality is that wealth, when pursued for its own sake, often leads to greater emptiness, discontent, and moral compromise. It is a powerful force that promises much but delivers little, leaving those who chase it with an insatiable hunger for more. The pursuit of riches is a never-ending race. Those who seek it rarely feel that they have enough. A person who starts with nothing dreams of making their first million, believing that will be enough to satisfy them. But once they achieve it, they begin aiming for 10 million, then 100 million, then a billion. The finish line keeps moving, and no amount of money ever truly feels like enough. The more they accumulate, the more they crave. They buy bigger houses, luxury cars, private jets, and extravagant possessions, yet none of these things bring lasting joy. The excitement of wealth fades quickly, and soon they find themselves trapped in an endless cycle of wanting more. Money creates the illusion of security, convincing people that they can protect themselves from the uncertainties of life. They believe that if they have enough wealth, they will never have to worry about hardship, illness, or loss. They place their trust in bank accounts, investments, and financial empires, thinking these things will shield them from suffering. But no matter how much money a person has, they cannot escape the trials of life. Businesses collapse, economies crash, fortunes disappear overnight. A single accident, an unexpected diagnosis, or a betrayal from a trusted friend can strip away everything they have built. The wealth they relied on suddenly proves powerless, and they realize that the security they thought they had was nothing more than an illusion. The pursuit of riches also comes at a cost. Many people sacrifice their time, their relationships, and even their health in their obsession with wealth. They work endlessly, neglecting their families and missing out on life's most precious moments. Parents spend more time chasing financial success than they do raising their children. Spouses grow distant as careers take priority over love and commitment. Friendships fade as money becomes the driving force in decision making. In the end, many realize too late that they traded what truly mattered for things that never had real value. Riches also have the power to corrupt. When wealth becomes a person's primary goal, they begin to justify actions they would have once condemned. Greed takes hold and moral boundaries become blurred. Business leaders exploit workers to maximize profits. Politicians sell their integrity for financial gain. Individuals lie, cheat, and manipulate to get ahead. The love of money drives people to commit acts they never thought they were capable of. And before they know it, they have lost themselves in their pursuit of wealth. They become consumed by their own ambition, willing to sacrifice honesty, kindness, and even their own humanity for financial success. But perhaps the greatest deception of riches is the idea that they bring happiness. Many believe that if they could just earn a little more, they would finally be content. They dream of living in mansions, traveling the world, and indulging in every luxury imaginable. But countless wealthy individuals have admitted that even after achieving everything they ever wanted, they still feel empty. Some turn to alcohol, drugs, or reckless behavior in an attempt to fill the void. Others suffer from anxiety and depression, realizing that their money cannot buy the peace and fulfillment they long for. Some of the wealthiest people in the world have lived their final days in loneliness and regret, understanding too late that riches could never provide the happiness they spent their lives chasing. The tragedy of riches is that they often blind people to what truly matters. Instead of seeking purpose, they seek profit. Instead of investing in relationships, they invest in material possessions. Instead of finding joy in simple things, they chase after wealth that will one day fade away. They spend their lives accumulating treasures that will eventually be left behind, failing to recognize that true fulfillment can never be found in money. The pursuit of pleasure has become one of the defining obsessions of modern society. Everywhere people turn, they are bombarded with messages that encourage them to indulge in whatever brings them gratification. The world tells them that life is about maximizing enjoyment, avoiding discomfort, and seeking experiences that provide the greatest amount of personal satisfaction. The problem is not that pleasure itself is evil, but that the relentless pursuit of it without restraint or purpose leads to emptiness and destruction. The deeper people dive into pleasure seeking, the more they find themselves enslaved to their own desires, trapped in a cycle that never truly satisfies. One of the greatest deceptions of pleasure is that it promises happiness but never delivers it in a lasting way. People chase experiences, relationships, and activities that bring them momentary enjoyment, believing that the next thrill, the next excitement, or the next indulgence will finally give them the contentment they seek. But no matter how much they consume, no matter how extreme their pleasures become, the satisfaction always fades. A person who finds excitement in partying eventually realizes that the thrill wears off. Someone who turns to alcohol or drugs to escape their troubles discovers that their problems are still there when the high is gone. Those who seek fulfillment in casual relationships come to understand that temporary pleasure cannot replace genuine love. The pursuit of pleasure without deeper meaning leads only to a hunger that can never be filled. Pleasure also has a way of enslaving those who seek it. What starts as an occasional indulgence soon becomes a necessity. A person who once drank occasionally to relax begins needing it every night to feel normal. Someone who once sought entertainment to escape stress begins consuming it obsessively to avoid dealing with reality. Those who indulge in material pleasures find that they are no longer satisfied with small luxuries, but need bigger and better things to maintain the same excitement. Pleasure seeking is addictive, and the more a person chases it, the harder it becomes to stop. What once brought joy becomes a prison, controlling their thoughts, decisions, and actions. They begin to structure their lives around their desires, sacrificing responsibilities, relationships, and even their integrity in pursuit of the next moment of gratification. The pursuit of pleasure often leads to moral compromise. People who live for pleasure begin making decisions based on what feels good rather than what is right. They justify dishonesty, selfishness, and irresponsibility because it allows them to continue their indulgence. They become willing to hurt others, betray friends, or neglect loved ones if it means satisfying their desires. The more they chase pleasure, the less they care about the consequences of their actions. Their relationships suffer because they prioritize their own enjoyment over the well-being of those around them. They lose sight of long-term fulfillment in exchange for short-term satisfaction. only to find themselves broken and empty when the pleasure fades. Pleasure seeking also creates an illusion of freedom. Many believe that by indulging in their desires without restraint, they are living a life free from limitations. They reject discipline, responsibility, and self-control, thinking that these things only hold them back from true happiness. But in reality, the opposite is true. The more a person gives in to pleasure, the less control they have over their own life. They become slaves to their appetites, unable to resist temptation, unable to say no even when they know it is harmful. They lose their ability to choose what is best for them because their desires dictate their actions. True freedom is not found in surrendering to pleasure, but in the ability to control it, to enjoy life's good things without being ruled by them. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of pleasure seeking is that it distracts people from the deeper purpose of life. Instead of seeking meaning, they seek entertainment. Instead of building something lasting, they focus on temporary thrills. Instead of developing character, they chase experiences that require no effort or growth. The pursuit of pleasure becomes a way to avoid the hard but necessary work of self-improvement, service, and genuine connection with others. They fill their lives with distractions, never realizing that true fulfillment is not found in pleasure itself, but in something much greater. The hunger for power has shaped the course of human history. It has driven people to build empires, wage wars, and establish kingdoms. Yet it has also led to betrayal, oppression, and destruction. The desire for power is one of the strongest forces in the human heart, promising control, influence, and dominance. People seek power in many ways, through politics, business, social status, or even within their personal relationships. They believe that if they can gain enough power, they will be able to dictate their own destiny, protect themselves from harm, and shape the world according to their will. But the truth is, power is a force that corrupts those who worship it, deceiving them into believing they are in control, when in reality, they are controlled by their own ambition. The pursuit of power often begins with noble intentions. Many seek power believing they will use it to bring justice, make a difference, or improve the world. A politician enters office promising to serve the people. A business leader works tirelessly to create something valuable. A person in a position of influence seeks to use their voice for good. But the nature of power is seductive, and it does not take long for it to become the ultimate goal rather than the means to something greater. The more power a person gains, the more they crave it. The desire to lead turns into the desire to dominate. The ambition to succeed transforms into the ambition to control. What started as a tool for good becomes an idol, and those who once sought power for the right reasons find themselves consumed by their own thirst for it. Power is deceptive because it creates the illusion of control. Those who have it believe they can shape their own fate, manipulate circumstances to their advantage, and dictate the course of events around them. They convince themselves that they are above the rules that govern ordinary people. They begin to believe their authority makes them untouchable, that they are immune to consequences, that their influence grants them the right to do as they please. But history is filled with examples of powerful rulers, leaders, and figures who thought they were invincible only to be brought low by their own arrogance. Power is never as secure as it appears to be. Those who hold it often find themselves in constant fear of losing it. They become paranoid, suspicious of those around them, always watching for the moment when their authority will be challenged. The power they once thought would give them peace instead becomes the very thing that keeps them in turmoil. Another danger of power is that it isolates those who seek it. The more influence a person gains, the more they distance themselves from the people around them. They stop listening to advice, believing that their authority makes them wiser than others. They surround themselves with those who flatter them, those who tell them what they want to hear. As a result, they become blind to their own faults. Unable to see the warnings that would protect them from their downfall, they mistake fear for respect, obedience for loyalty, and submission for love. They build walls around themselves, convinced that they are in control, when in reality they have become prisoners of their own need to maintain dominance. The pursuit of power also leads to moral compromise. When power becomes the ultimate goal, people begin justifying unethical actions to obtain or maintain it. Lies become acceptable if they secure authority. Betrayal becomes necessary if it removes obstacles. Corruption becomes justified if it strengthens control. The hunger for power causes people to abandon their principles, to sacrifice integrity in exchange for influence. They tell themselves that once they have enough power, they will use it for good, but by the time they reach the top, they have already lost the very values that once guided them. They become the very thing they once opposed, blinded by their own ambition. Even those who achieved ultimate power eventually discover that it does not bring the fulfillment they expected. Many of history's most powerful figures spent their final days in fear, regret, or despair. They built kingdoms, amassed armies, controlled nations, yet they still felt empty. Some lived in constant paranoia, terrified of being overthrown. Others realized too late that the power they had spent their lives chasing had cost them everything that truly mattered: friendships, love, peace, and even their own humanity. They discovered that the power they had worked so hard to attain could not provide the meaning they longed for, nor could it protect them from the inevitable truth that all power is temporary. We live in a world that constantly tells us that sex, power, riches, and materialism are the ultimate goals of life. It tells us that if we can experience more pleasure, gain more influence, accumulate more wealth, and surround ourselves with more possessions, we will finally find happiness. But the truth is, these things, no matter how much we attain, never truly satisfy. They promise fulfillment, yet leave us empty. They offer security, yet fill us with fear. They seem to give freedom, yet enslave us to an endless cycle of wanting more. History has shown that those who reach the highest levels of pleasure, power, and wealth often end up the most broken, restless, and unfulfilled. Their lives become defined by anxiety, greed, and regret because what they were chasing was never meant to bring lasting peace. The problem is not in having wealth, enjoying success, or experiencing pleasure, but in making them the center of life. When these things become our gods, they will demand everything from us: our time, our relationships, our morals, and even our very souls. Yet they will give us nothing in return. The greatest tragedy is not failing to obtain these things, but realizing too late that they were never enough. The question we must ask ourselves is this: are we chasing what truly matters, or are we wasting our lives running after things that will fade away?